Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's MOLAA Zoom Project. My name is Solimar Salas, Vice President of the Museum Content and Programming Department at the Museum of Latin American Art. We welcome you today, Wednesday, December 15th, 2021, to this edition of the MOLAA Zoom Project in conversation with the artist Andrés Pereira, where MOLAA Chief Curator Gabriela Urtiaga will discuss with the artist his work and career. MOLAA also acknowledges the support of the Dwight Stewart Youth Fund, the Kenneth T. and Eileen L. Norris Foundation, and the Arts Council for Long Beach for their constant support of the educational programs at the Museum of Latin American Art. In each chapter, the conversation with the artist and our MOLAA Chief Curator places the focus on a series of specific artworks, which require a close inspection and deliberate process of contemplation and exploration, delving into the ideas surrounding the creation of the works, their source of research and inspiration, in an effort to immerse ourselves in the world of the artists. In chapter 16 of the MOLAA Zoom Project, we interview renowned artist Andrés Pereira, who lives and works between Berlin, Germany, and Mexico City. Andrés Pereira Paz was born in Bolivia in 1986. He has extensively exhibited across Latin America, USA, and Europe. Recently, his works have been featured at the Future Generation Art Prize in Kiev, Art Basel Statements, Brunand Gallery in Berlin, the 11th Berlin Biennial, Künstlerhaus Bethanien, Berlin, the Writer Project and Gasworks in London, Latvian Center for Contemporary Art in Riga, Kinderhook and Caracas in Berlin, National Museum of Art, La Paz, Second Grand Tropical Bienal in San Juan de Puerto Rico, AO, and others. His works are included in public collections such as MCA, the Museum of Contemporary Art in Chicago, Candin's San Francisco, and Instituto Alumnos Mexico. Welcome, everyone, and enjoy today's session. Gabriela, all yours.
Thank you, Solimar, for your introduction, and thanks all the MOLAA team. Hello, everyone, and welcome to MOLAA. Bienvenidos a MOLAA. Hola Andrés, qué alegría charlar con vos. Welcome, and thank you so much for joining us today and opening up your studio to MOLAA and our audience.
Yes, thank you very much, Gabriela. Thanks for the introduction as well. It's a pleasure to be here.
We are so pleased to have you with us. And Andrés, you are living and working in Berlin, Mexico now, and you were moving during this particular year, right? And tell us if the pandemic has changed your life and your work as an artist. How did it affect or influence what you do in terms of thinking and creating art?
Well, I think it's really, of course, like everybody, I guess, in the world now, everybody's life changed. And in terms of I'm trying to focus at the moment in a bit longer terms, longer processes or in longer projects and kinds of work. I think also that I just moved to Mexico. I mean, I'm trying to establish a studio here. So I'll be in between Berlin and Mexico the next year to run away from the winter. I think all the people in Berlin will understand.
Sure.
And also to be able to work under the sun and to be in Latin America, which is really necessary, like for me as a person. No? And think also in the way some subjects I've been working with, I put them a bit in the fridge for a moment until I can get back to them. We will talk about it anyway.
Yeah. And Andrés, like an introduction, I would like to invite you to start our conversation talking about your creative process in general terms, right? Your beginnings as an artist, as a young person from La Paz, Bolivia, in South America.
Yes, sure. Well, I came to art. I have to mention this through thanks mostly to Roberto Valcárcel. Roberto Valcárcel was contemporary artist, a conceptual artist from La Paz as well. And he has been teaching like in his house for many, many, many years. As you know, in South America, and Gabriela, you're Argentinian, like
Yeah.
lots of artist studios and artist houses are mainly the places where people get their formation. No, you have the early beginning was Roberto Valcárcel, but I also went to the Escuela Nacional de Bellas Artes, Hernando Siles in La Paz, which is like one of the 2 art schools we have in the city. And then I moved to Buenos Aires. I also went through Diana Eisenberg's Clínica de Obra for some years, and she's amazing and wonderful, really like this. So I would say like mainly information wise, I would say like Diana Eisenberg and Roberto Valcárcel have been my teachers, like my mentors, no? Like these people that managed to teach, and quite an inspiration. I teach as well, no? Like sometimes I do clínicas de obra as well. Like I take that way of existence. I find it super important as well in my practice, no? And yeah, that's my beginning in the past.
And tell us about the intersection between your artistic practice and your commitment to explore the post-colonial issues from the perspective of the Andean region, because as a multidisciplinary artist, right, you introduce us in your body of work to important process, often contradictory.
Yes, I've been thinking a lot about this, because at the beginning I was not so much like, when I was in Buenos Aires, I was not so much thinking about these things, because I think Buenos Aires also has a different context in vuelo, like fly. I don't know how to say it. Yeah, like a different thing. And when I came back to Bolivia, I realized I voted all my life for Evo Morales. You know, like I realized what the plurinational state was, and this was, I think, as a Bolivian artist, and I can speak a lot. I can speak through my colleagues there, that the process of change that Evo Morales brought to the country has been an invitation to work on these subjects, like in a really, really organic and natural way, you know? And I think this is a bit misunderstood, because we are one country that has a vice ministry of decolonization, let's say. We have a clock in the main square that goes backwards, like the main clock of the city goes backwards. I mean, we are on that process. We are that experiment in a way, no, in the continent. And with its highs and its lows, it was really a thing that made me consider, who do I work for? No? I come from a country that's 65% indigenous. No? And where a really important question throughout my work is the word art. Let's take the word arte, no? And translate it in these other 35 official languages. And let's try to, and then let's take it like, who do I work for? What am I doing? And somehow you end up realizing this is a European sport, no? And this comes embedded with the infrastructure. It's a sport that needs infrastructure, needs agency, agents, money, collectors, galleries, you know, the ecosystem of the art world. And this is one of the reasons mostly why I might not live there. You know, it's because it's just one tiny piece of the population that cares about this, and I'm totally fine with it. You know, I'm totally okay with the fact that, okay, I have European heritage as well as many South Americans. It's like, and that heritage is something super silenced. No? It's like Europe denying the fact that they were refugees. of war, no? And this is a big elephant in the room that we have in South America. We need to deal with it. Argentina has terapia, like for that.
Yeah,
you know?
for sure.
We are third generation refugees, lots of us. Like, we have to be open and speak about this. We're settlers that came in weird conditions, no? And that's somehow the questioning that initiates the spark for me to create, I would say.
Yes, it's so necessary more than ever to talk about that, and it's for that we are so happy to have you today. And Andrés, your work regularly take the form of textile, and you create a strong dialogue around your personal and political experience, but also use a lot of reference of the Andean art history from the pre-Columbian and colonial period. And in that sense, I would like to put a focus on Conductas y Adhesiones series from 2017. Could you explain to us about your methodology in this interesting project and about your daily exercise to decolonize the point of view?
La Escuela Nacional de Bellas Artes Hernando Siles, my art school, was funded by the indigenista movement in the 20s. No? And this school, as many other initiatives of that time, made me question about indigenismo, like indigenism. I don't know in English. I never know how to translate, but indigenismo, yes. It's okay.
Oh, indigenous, yes, community.
That's not indigenismo is a way, is the approach, I would say, of that middle class, no? Yeah. Towards the indigenous aesthetics, situations, and so on. So in the 20s in Bolivia, and in Latin America, no? We all know this, like Europe was being questioned, no? Because of the wars. Europe was in decay. So indigenismo, like as a movement, is something that always fascinated me because it implied for the first time that these countries had to look inside as well, and artists had to look inside, and the horizons were not Europe anymore. So what do we have here, no? And then I do study a lot. I have tons of like albums of photos and stuff of artists of this period. And for example, for Isque, it's Elena Isque did booklet in Paris, printed in Paris, called El Arte Peruano en la Escuela, like Peruvian art in school. So in this booklet, she would draw like patterns of pre-Columbian textiles, so children could draw them like that in Peru, because I was living also in Lima. And this approach is something that has always been disturbing for me. You know, it's again trying to make a drawing of a weave, no? Of a tejido. Like, that's the material translation. And that's how, for example, I was educated. No? I went to indigenista school, super militant, but at the same time we did sculpture, drawing, painting, the classical bellas artes, high art, the high arts, no, they still were there. So I thought of taking these popular, like vernacular weaves that I found, this, for example, this requai weave that I found through the requai people that, through people, not requai people, through people that sell these frazadas, like these blankets, no?
Yes.
That are, or carpets, or multi-use textiles, you know, that, or you can hang them on the wall, or you can use them as you want, that people make them since forever, no? And in this case, these are from the 40s, these two, like Sabogal and Isque, the textiles you see on the back, and intervene the textile with the drawings that Elena Isque was proposing. As a way of saying, that indigenismo never discovered something, because I think indigenismo has this colonial approach. I would say that indigenista artists were discovering their own land. No? In Bolivia was quite a thing of the intellectual movements of the early 20th century. Like they went to, they did romerias, like I don't know how to say, like parades towards the ruins of Tiahuanacu, no? The artists went to Tiahuanacu and discovered Tiahuanacu. So that narrative has always been, for me, like, it's disturbing, and it comes from the problem I told you, that art cannot translate still, like we still battle with that, no?
Yeah. Yeah, and Andrés, the idea of identity, right, is very important in your production, and some concepts such of class, race, a social but also such a political category, and immerse in your body of work trying to visibilize some practice in Latin America culture. And I would like to put the focus in Retrato de Julia from 2021. And you are exploring here the duality, the dichotomy of a domestic relationship and personal experience, but also you are talking about a common and recurring situation in your hometown, Bolivia, but also again in Latin America. What is the idea behind this artwork?
I love that you jumped to this work, because this is quite recent, no? Like this is from this year, and from 2017 to now. Like it's a nice jump, I would say, because throughout the pandemic, for this exhibition called Isabel and Guarmi Pachacuti, I did an intellectual diet. I stopped reading, listening, blah, 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 men. I stopped consuming men-produced intellectual content for months. Like, and I wanted to really think in who are the doers of immune systems of this planet, and are women. No, and women have been designing and creating these bodies. Like we are bodies made by women. No, just and our umbilical cord is that connection, that plug to food, to our relationship with nature, to trauma, to many things. No? They say your belly button is the biggest wound you have to heal all your life, right? And it comes a bit from that reflection of this feminine time now that I think the pandemic and the virus have this, like this female period that we're living now, of care, of it's a demand from nature for us to chill, to go small, to take our time, to cook our food, to relate differently to industry, traveling and stuff. So this work comes in this context, right? And the person who took care of me, since both of my parents were working, was Julia. Will always take care of me, and vice versa, I hope. And Julia is the one who introduced me a lot to weaving, to sewing, to doing these things, cooking, basically giving me the tools to survive as a kid, as a child, no? So in this exhibition, I wanted to do a portrait of her, with her. So we did some Zoom talks, and to choose the elements she would like to see in her portrait. The only condition I said, it's going to be textile. So what you see, like this tiny, some people might be seeing stones, are actually dried potatoes that we eat in the Andes, no? Like tunta and chuño, which are the ones, these potatoes helped, for example, Julia to survive the pandemic. Yeah. In her community, people gathered these dried potatoes and would eat these reservas, like these stacks of dried potatoes, because they can last up 20 years and more. you know, and since it's cold, it's not problematic to store them. So communities do have always like a time, like a storage of dried potatoes in case of drought, this, that, many things. So we chose to put them and to embroider them. And I got them in Berlin, like through many pirate, like you can't imagine how many pirate things, but it was possible. And then we said wool had to be in the present in the work. You know, we agreed that wool and weaving, because she weaves, we are here, like we said, like, yeah, wool. And I showed her many options of what I was thinking. And she went for tufting, which is this tufting gun, which we did these wool things that are hanging. And the shape that you see is a sculpture that of Pachamama that was in my house, in the living room. Yeah. And then with Julia, she is an evangelic Christian, no? Like many people in Latin America, and of course in the US. And she wanted the Star of David on it. But we agreed that her life has always been a contradiction between this Star of David and the indigenous background that she has, the stories and narratives, the relationship with that landscape and so on. So we chose to put a star by Guamán Poma de Ayala, by this indigenous chronicler, with the Star of David. So Julia would be like, okay, fully portrait. System, there's food, system of beliefs, techniques, sculpture, like many layers. And yeah, I really enjoyed this process. For example, to do this work, it was like 4 or 5 months of talks, negotiations, conversations, embroidering, chatting, you know, doing things with our hands, because it's really important in my country to use your hands. If you don't know how to use your hands, you're no one. And this is something I really enjoy also as well. To go into this kind of production.
No, it's a very poetic work. And Andrés, during the last period, one of the narrative in your body of work through textile, installation, video, sculpture, is talking about the trauma of migration and displacement, talking about the Bolivian reality, the culture, the representation. And the next selection is Yo Fortifico Sus Columnas from 2019-2020. And in this installation, you incorporate different elements and reference of the new chronic and good government, writing in 1615 by the first American Indian chronicler Guamán Poma de Ayala, denouncing the oppression and violence of the native in the Andes by the Spanish conqueror. And we can see the installation, of course, during the Berlin Biennale. And there are a series of sculptures inspiring in the celestial body of the manuscript. And I think that the result is an immersive experience talking about the brutal past, but also presenting questions, right, about the persistence of the violence and destruction of the ecosystem and indigenous communities today. And this is part of your important and political project where you investigate the relationship between the past, the present, and also the future, right?
Yes. Well, as many COVID projects, this was a long pregnancy, no? Like delays happened and many things. So the original project is like something that transformed into this throughout the way. First of all, I've worked with the drawings of Guamán Poma de Ayala many times. It was not the first one. And for me, he is a fascinating figure, as many other artists from that time, from the colonial time, no? And especially, I have a special focus. I worked with other ones, but Tito Yupanqui, for example, the one that did the Virgin of Copacabana in the Titicaca Lake, or Guamán Poma de Ayala are cases of indigenous people that learned through Spanish people to use drawing, no, and to use written words, and to use many things. Juan Poma Ayala was indeed apadrinado, like by a Spanish priest. No, so new Chronicles and good government, I would add to what you said. It's also an attempt from Juan Poma to show the King of Spain that we are not so different. It has that denouncement part, of course, it's a big denounce, it's a Troy horse, intellectual Troy horse, but also has a side that conciliates. Like, okay, you have Virgin Mary, you have Jesus, we have this, we have that, you have this, I have that. So it's really under that logic, not that like this book. So throughout these 400 drawings, Juan Poma Ayala put these celestial bodies, which means the sun, the moon, and the stars. And when you see them, they are animated. And this is, for me, massively amazing, because it shows the relationship of Juan Poma with nature and the way people in the Andes animate. Stones talk, things drink, the earth it drinks things, the plant says this. I mean, this relationship with nature, which is like back and forward, no? And I thought, okay, this is the biggest epistemic field, the sky. The most important epistemic field of this planet is the sky. For any culture of this planet, is the sky, will always be the sky, and the stars and the moon and the sun. Call it astrologic, whatever you name it, no? It's there. Yeah. There's what we have been reading for centuries. And he took it like that. So I thought, okay, this is the epistemic field in which Juan Poma operated, right? And in the installation, I wanted the sculptures to be on stage, like to be there. And also for the Bolivian, because now we're seeing the photo of Art Basel statements, but the other photo was from the Bolivian. This one, thank you.
Yeah.
For the Bolivian, I thought things that this sun, these stars, these moons should be complete, like as figures, no, and kind of performing, rotating, flying in the space. But when COVID happened, because it happened throughout the invitation of the curators of the Biennale and the Biennale itself, I thought I went to La Paz for a bit. Before COVID, sorry, just before COVID, I went to La Paz to the paperwork. I saw the Amazon on the flight to La Paz from Berlin, from Madrid actually. I saw the Amazon like on ashes. You could, this image that you have when you travel South America, right? That's the Amazon is like this huge green and reddish and with brown rivers, no, like the silhouette. Yeah. You could see parts that were hurt through the plane, and this was shocking. Literally one of the biggest shocks of my life. And I came back with that in mind, and I thought, okay, these stars, this sun, these moons have fallen, like with the burning of the Amazon, because this installation had to deal with that. So it was like the relationship with nature in this country has collapsed. Yeah. No, even though Evo Morales can be the most left-wing, blah 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 blah. It's the agro negocio. It's all over South America, and it's destroying our land. No, yeah. So this has fallen. It was kind of a deception from that side, but and curiously, and nevertheless, a tiny little mini bird from the Amazon called Guajojo appeared, was seen, spotted for the first time in La Paz, looking for cold. And it's a Bad Omen bird, and it was standing on the door of the Deutsche Schule, of the German school. So I thought, this is perfect. This bird has spoken to me. in a way, like this bird
Yeah.
named it. So the installation that you and the people that are watching this can see has this sound of these birds. It was in headphones at the time because of COVID. No, it's in the space like do. It's super dark sound, weird, sounds like human in a way. So I thought these two things together, this relationship with nature, this bird flying, looking for a colder weather from its natural habitat, it's like the book of Waman Pomadayala, because the book now is in Denmark, in the Royal Library, right? So it's a book that's out of its habitat, and it's a book that when the republics of South America had this book in hands, maybe we could have not been republics even. We could have been different. And this book was found, in this Danish library in 1918, if I'm correct. And no one knows how. Waman Poma did this book for the King of Spain, but no one knows how it ended up there. We have a huge piece of information, and it's like this verse again. That's colonialism, but colonialism as this software that implies a relationship with nature that doesn't listen nature to establish a relationship, right?
Yeah.
In the West, we are just different geographies, I would say, no? And
exactly.
That was the thing. Sorry, like if I'm to extend
No,
it.
it's amazing, and we really know, Andrés, the power of art. And this is a philosophical proclamation, right? And it's amazing that you can put the focus on that. Thank you so much. And now I would like to explore another particular piece, a girl angel with poncho. I think it's amazing, from 2019. And could you tell us about your message in this particular artwork, linked with the amazing Kalamata Angel from the 17th century?
Okay, yes. Many colonial paintings are anonymous, right? And the Master of Calamarca is always like this. It's like we have this series, it's like 15 in the Calamarca church of these archangels. No? And this was for a small exhibition I did in Berlin. And I thought of the Catholic Church role in the colonial period, but also undertaking the Catholic Church as a queer endeavor, like as a queer initiative in itself. No, it's like, okay, if you go, you see like how churches were built in the Andes, like in the middle of nowhere, and you see like all the decoration, and you see like the Baroque and the gold and the fabrics and the this and the that. Like I joke with my friends, I'm a queer person too. Like I joke like, oh, no straight guy would have done it, right? Like it's no straight male person would have like put more flowers here or more gold there. So I thought always of the archangels of Calamarca. They are like these female figures that have weapons or that have flowers and are like holding this church in the middle of nowhere. No, in the Altiplano, and I thought to revisit them with a poncho rojo, which is like a poncho that authorities use in my city, in the countryside, everywhere. No, and to reinterpret these angels was really important. Like for me, I think because this anonymity of the Master of Calamarca is something that anonymity in most colonial paintings is something that disturbs me, because we don't know if women did these paintings, if indigenous people did these paintings. We just don't know which group had no right of authorship. And we suppose it's a male master of Calamarca. We just don't know who is that person, who did this queer, beautiful figures, like porcelain. I don't know, in the middle of the Andes, like what? Why?
Yeah. Wow, it's amazing. And the next artwork is a wall installation with drawing, video, and the piece 1 Man 3 from 2018 with different support when we can explore a little more about the process of your research about gesture and religious symbolism, both pre-Columbian and Catholic, that see the emphasize the reminiscence of the colonial period. And could you explain to us this particular exhibition and the different section that you decide to present here? Because you are showing us different aspects of the role that the pre-Hispanic and post-colonial art play in the construction of cultural identity, right, Andrés?
Yes, sure. This is actually an exhibition. The photo you see here, and the installation is up. Like I can.
We have the next.
The exhibition name is Blue Eyes, because like ojos azules are quite fetish in my country, at least, and many countries of Latin America. You know, it's a thing. The middle class is a vice. Like if your son grows with blue eyes, or if you marry a gringo, your life will be like salt. You know, like all of that narrative, those narratives, middle class narratives. That and in this regard, on this regard, I would say with Blue Eyes, and with the pre-Columbian. I would say identity, or the pre-Columbian material that emerged throughout the 20th century, which is quite fresh, like 19th and 20th century. It's always been on my mind. Bolivia, when it reformed in the early 20th century as well, needed to institutionalize folklore and to create museums of archaeology. And it's a moment where archaeologists were like in town, people were doing my art school, my indigenista art school, that, quite an effervescent moment. And for me, my relationship with pre-Columbian artifact, it's, or motifs or things, it's just the fact that these objects are not designed for this displays. Are just taken out of their natural setting, landscape. We see things that, and especially in London, for example, no, you have the British Museum, and you see like corpses. No, you go and you see corpses there, and are called mummies, but are corpses, and so they have families, and they have like this, and they have like they are people. You know, kind of the Enlightenment when it arrived in Bolivia, which was in the 20s, a bit late. No. Made me think that the attempt of indigenistas to use these motifs, it's still a way of domesticating them. It's still a way of not building a relationship with the landscape, with the things, with the place where we are. It's still that denial from the middle high class of South America towards their indigenous, the people that are around and landscape, and also like the traditions that come within the sustainability of the land, and so on. It's a way of making the pre-Columbian banal. So I think Blue Eyes was a bit on that regard. It has many pieces that are like micro critiques, and the one you see on top, it's another Poma Dayala drawing, selection of drawings regarding evangelization and the taking of the icons of the ¿cómo se dice? La extirpación de idolatrías, ¿no? Extirpation of idolatries that happened throughout the colonial process. And there's a church, and there's knives, and it was violent, and it was always a cycle of violence. This is why I did it in a circle.
And Andres, I would like to know your approach and connection directly with the community, right, in your practice. And also, I think it's really important your engagement with the young generation of artists from Bolivia. Tell us about your ideas, your experience, and also your new project of Panandina Academy of Art.
Oh, yeah. I've been, I mean, and I guess like many artists, I make art for myself when I was 18. No, or I am an artist just to keep on responding to that person I was. But then, and I was trained by teachers that generously share their knowledge, like Diana, as we said, no, like Diana Eisenberg or Roberto Valcárcel, or any others. I've been to SIA, like Roberto Jacobi also. It's been a big influence. I've been his assistant in Buenos Aires. And it's something I have in my, I wouldn't say practice my way of being an artist. I find education is a way of contributing and impacting reality on a different, much more realistic way than displaying art. With my, it's not only with Bolivian artists at the moment. For example, I'm also part of Bisagra from Lima. Like we have this project called Bisagra with Miguel Lopez, Florencia Portocarrero, Soran Buru, Juan Diego Tobalina, and Eliana Ota. And we are doing the Programa de Presagios Compartidos, which is like a educational program. And now the Pan-Andean School of Arts, it's an initiative I'm doing for my colleagues in the Andean countries, so they can upload workshops they would like to give, and on that regard, like subtitle them and making them available for broader audiences, so people can subscribe and understand like different subjects. They can do like I'm trying to go interdisciplinary in that regard. So maybe people who does things for theater, or weavers, or medicinal doctor, traditional doctors, artists, of course, and as a way of building a community. And the idea is that what I can do is like people from public universities in the Andean region can go in for free. So others can pay in the north, hopefully, and so people in the south can have access. This is the ecology I'm trying to build. I'm on it. Yeah. It's gonna be born soon. Yeah.
Wow. And Andres, well, you know, time flies. And to finalize this analysis, I would like to talk about how important and influential in your practice is now your condition as a Latin American artist living in Europe, and the linking with your native town and the history of Bolivia, and how is the reception of your work in Europe talking about these important issues?
The reception of my work has been really good, and I'm really thankful. I think Berlin is a city where things can be discussed still and really openly, and it's an amazing city, you know, to be in. And as a Latin American person, I would say it's a bit more tough in Latin America than in Europe, for example. Because in Latin America, people never thought of my country. No, I mean, we have tons of Latin American art museums that don't have Bolivian artists. And this is a pity. Even like Malva in Buenos Aires doesn't have a Bolivian artist. It only has like Elba Byron, who's like more Argentinian than, no? I mean, in the Latin American context, it's a bit more difficult for me as Bolivian, I would say, because you're kind of alone, so I have to parasite different scenes, no? And this is what I've been doing. And in Europe, in the case of Europe, the reception of my work has been good. The people still engage and demand my work, and they are really giving me a lot of opportunities and visibility stuff. Also in Latin America, I'm not saying no, of course yes, but it's hard in the identity politics negotiation that's happening culturally in the world. Sometimes I feel also we as Latin American artists have a certain demand to make certain type of work. No? So if you wanna if you fought with your partner and you wanna make a painting like everybody else in the world, you just can't. You just have certain subjects to talk about. So I'm trying at the moment to put, as I said, some content in the fridge. So I am not also satisfying an ecology of identity politics that can, at a certain point, from my point of view, be detrimental towards artists that come from the South. Because Europe really demands Southness. So I'm in Berlin, I'm trying to navigate. I'm at that moment now, to navigate that. Don't give them what they want necessarily, but also put myself first.
Yeah.
And do what I want to do mostly. Which has been quite organic always, but now it's much more some basta here, basta there.
Thank you, Andrés. Muchas gracias. Thank you for your generosity to share with us your ideas, your work. It's a really, really pleasure.
Thank you, Gabriela. Thank you for having me and for letting me talk so much.
No, this is amazing. You know, the most important thing is to share experience, knowledge through the art, and you are an inspiration. Thank you so much, Andrés.
Thank you, Gabriela. Have a nice day, and I hope people enjoy. Yeah.
Yes, for sure. Thank you, all of you, for watching the Zoom project with Andrés, and I hope to see you soon next year with more interviews with amazing Latin American and Latinx artists. Thank you so much, and happy holidays.
Same for everybody. Bye.
Bye.